that Matsoro and myself have decided to work on this afternoon. It is really something that hurts us both. It is not a research per se. We simply use a reason and it drew from the Bible and from some scholars who have done research on this topic to come up with what we're going to present to you this afternoon. But to start, I'm going to ask you to travel with me. We're going to travel in time, back in time, and we're going to rewind our years and land on 1994. Many of us were already alive back then. Maybe only a few were not alive. And as we go to 1994, we're going to fly into Rwanda. And we have brothers here from Rwanda who know exactly where I'm headed. In 1994, this woman happened to be in Rwanda teaching business classes in our university, Adventist University of Central Africa. As she went to church one April morning, they sang, they were rejoicing and praising God, how it is so wonderful to belong to the family of God. And they went to bed just as usual. But in the morning as they woke up, she told me, there was a horror happening outside her window. As she opened the window to look at the beautiful hills of Rwanda, there she saw her students chopping each other's head off. She took actually some pictures that she has at my house. Her life was never the same again. For seeing brothers killing each other, for seeing sisters being raped and killed and slaughtered. In fact, some of my brothers who were studying in Rwanda in 1994, my older brothers, two of them happened to be there. They told me horrifying stories of children breastfeeding on dead bodies because the little babies were alone, left alone, alive, and somebody will come and will actually just start pounding that child to death. Problems are real in Africa. Politics are real in Africa. But should we remain apolitical? Should we remain apolitical and watch people suffer just because we should not be political? Africa is known to have the largest number of refugees in the world. This is according to a study that I conducted in 2014, published in 2015. Part of this study I presented in the previous forum about a couple of years ago. So this brings this topic to become very important. Some of you come from Uganda, from Rwanda, from Burundi, from Congo. You have seen a picture like the one I have on board right now. When rebels come to a village and they slaughter people and they chop people's fingers, arms and noses, they do amazing things that you cannot imagine. A human being going lower than an animal. Because animals will not do this to other animals. Unless it's an animal of another species. But a lion, no matter how hard it is, it will not do that to another lion. We are all created in the image of God. We all believe in that, don't we? Yes or no? We are our brother's keepers, aren't we?
Yes.
We are.
Church leaders are shepherds, aren't they?
Yeah.
But I want to say it's not only in the spiritual matters. Being apolitical is probably misinterpreted. And last night, as we went through the presentation, it was interesting. A presentation and the discussion, I was starting to enjoy it, but we didn't have enough time. We have issues in defining this. Sometimes we use it in a way that we will not agree with this afternoon, but let's continue. The question is, does being apolitical free us from the duty to defend the victims? I want you to answer me. I'm going to start with my own colleague here, who has spent, I think, a number of years in politics to define for us what politics is. Please, join me.
Good afternoon.
As Dr. Safary was speaking, I remember that it was 1994. I was in primary 5 in Rwanda. And on 6 April, we were supposed to resume school. We were supposed to resume class. In the morning, my dad told me, "You're not attending class today because they're killing people out there." And that's what we call politics. So, talking about politics, it's a bit complicated because this is a common word to everyone. Everyone talks about politics. But I'm going to try our level best to come to a common understanding of politics. But Aristotle told us, by nature, man is a political animal. This is just meaning a state, the government, the politics, it's something that is natural for human beings. We are created with that sense of politics. But some scholars try to define politics with the help of some few words that come around communities. When you talk to someone about politics, they think of democracy, people think of elections, people think of becoming president, people think of law, insecurity, and even security. But for us today, we are saying politics consists of all decisions regarding how rules that govern a common life are made. Politics should not be just a state of power. It gathers how things are put together for a common life to be lived in harmony. That's why English people talk of policies in their companies, in their organization. But when we go in French, it's called politics. Inside an organization, we talk of politics. It's just a way of putting things together so that people can have better life. But what we've realized today is few people have used politics as an instrument to gain power. When I want to take over power, when I want to have power over a certain community, over some people, I move into politics. That is a misinterpretation of the word politics. Politics should consist only of putting rules together for better life in a community. With that, we are just trying to focus on politics in Africa. Politics in Africa, Africa is unlucky because it's not like the Western world. In Africa, politics does not have its own and unique manifestation. That is to mean, the way we are doing politics today in Africa depends on what we learned from other people. It's not our own way of doing things. It's not our own game, because politics, it's a game. I took some years working with politicians. I don't know if I became a politician, but at least I worked in government, and I realized it's just a game. But Africa does not play its own game in politics. It's playing somebody else's game. What comes in Africa today, being that we are playing somebody else's game, we are not even mastering what we're doing. And that's put us in some kind of lack of good leadership, which takes us in conflicts and wars everywhere, because we are playing somebody else's game. So, with that, we're just realizing that the current situation of Africa has a story behind. We inherited a lot from colonialism. And that's why today, being that we didn't really master the way colonial taught us politics, we are trying to think making people slaves is the way of doing politics. African leaders today are not there for people's prosperity, but they are there for slavery. Why? Because when politics came in, it came to our grandfathers and made them slaves. They had to be beaten day and night. And that's how they thought, that's politics. When you have power, you need to step on everyone who is under you. And we are reaping results today. Conflicts everywhere. What surprises me today is, when politics came to Africa, it used the church. We all know our history, we know where we come from. And the question today is, what's the implication of that church in making those rules benefit the population? The political stability of Africa is the only condition for social and economic development of our countries. So for us, if we are concerned as a church, as a people, if we are concerned about the politics, or if we are concerned about the development, the socio-economic development of Africa, we should really be concerned about politics. The effects of instability and armed conflicts, because these are the results we are having today in Africa. Very many leaders are not living power, and this is what is leading Africa to poverty. Some scholars told us that conflict causes food insecurity. This is a fact. We don't have to prove it. Education. During Civil War, the country reduces its education expenditure by 3.1 or 3.6% every year. Let's take a country like Angola. If I talk about Congo, people think I'm talking about a country. Angola had 25 years of war. It's only recently that Angola had the first Angolan moving to university. The rest studied from Kinshasa or from other countries. Child mortality. It's really seen that the country with conflicts loses 10% more than the countries with stability. 10% of birth. Infrastructure. There is no way you can develop infrastructure in a country when you're fighting, when there is war, when there is instability. The church, at the bottom line, the church is also affected. It's hard to trust in God when you're suffering, when they just killed your own brother with no reason. Are we going to remain observant of all that? And this one is leading us to insensitivity to human suffering, referring to Dr. Safary Wa-Mbaleka. Thank you very much.
So the great dilemma about human suffering now comes. Should we speak up or should we not speak up when violence is going on, while all the confusion is going on around the world? There is no middle ground. According to issues facing Christians today by these scholars, they have published a lot on this issue. They say we have only two options. We can either choose to escape or to engage. And when we escape, we are actually like Pilate, who decided to wash off his hands. Unlike Jesus, who was getting his hands dirty, sore and worn, getting hurt even for justice. So, can we actually be apolitical? In the sense we have been defining the word before. The church as apolitical, or church seen as unmindful of human suffering. When we do not say anything while people are suffering. When we see the Catholic Church, for example, in the case of Congo, speaking up, same thing in Rwanda, speaking up, back in 1994, against oppression, against the genocide, against all these things. And then the Adventist Church is quiet. Guess what? They don't say, oh, the church is just apolitical, that's why. They only say the church is unmindful of the suffering. Why should I go to the Adventist Church where they actually don't care about what I'm going through? Are Adventists escapists? Here is what they say. Too many of us evangelicals, and I think we can say Adventists there, either have been or maybe still are irresponsible escapists. Fellowship with each other in the church is more congenial than service in an apathetic and even hostile environment outside. Of course, we make occasional evangelistic ways, and I like that. Evangelistic ways. We go in, we're going to serve people food for 2 hours and get quickly out of there. The problem is that we come back to our Christian castle. We say, well, all this is all related to Jesus coming back again. We need just to continue praying and waiting. What is expected from the church is that all evangelicals are expected to stand openly and firmly for social equality, human freedom, and all forms of social justice throughout the world. And this is coming from Christian scholars who are writing about this topic. This struggle against evil involves taking risks, stepping out of our comfort zones, even putting our lives on the line. No, when we say we are political, therefore people continue to be slaughtered next door because we are political, we're not going to speak up. It is against what Bible scholars have said. We say, well, we're feeding people. We're doing a lot. You know, we built tents and then we gave them 100 bags of corn. All right, let's find out. It is always good to feed the hungry. But the church must not neglect the twin sister of social service, namely social action, removing the causes of human need. What started this suffering? We need to go to the root cause of that suffering. Hunger, to deal with the hunger is good, but it's not good enough. So if we truly love our neighbors and want to serve them, our service may oblige us to take or solicit political action on their behalf. I am not a scholar of these things from a Christian biblical perspective. These are biblical Bible theologians who have come up with this strong statement. They continue, the Christian cannot shut himself up in his church and abandon the world to its fate. And you say, well, that's how it has been in the last 20 years. Yes, I'm going to just leave it like that. Yes, what can I do if even I speak? They're not going to listen to me. But listen, the prophets didn't speak like that. They went out and they spoke to the king. Even when they were told, if you go there, you're not going to come back alive. But they never budged down. We can choose to be apolitical. But sometimes when we are there, we become cowards. And we hide behind apolitical simply because we are cowards. Do we have a biblical basis for this? I know we have theologians here who will argue with me because I didn't do Greek or Hebrew. But let's try. In John 21:15-17, Jesus said, Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? He said, yes, Lord. He said, you know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. Yes. That's what we have been doing. We have been feeding the lambs. But here's something else that happens later in that passage. Jesus said, take care of my sheep. Now that is beyond the feeding. Taking care of the sheep. Some of you have been shepherds. I have been a shepherd. You do not take care of the sheep by seeing a wolf or a lion and say, oh, the lion is coming. Oh, I cannot do anything. I have already fed the sheep. I will just pray here. No, this is the time you go crazy. Hey, you shout or whatever language you have to make sure that the lion can flee. We don't say, I will just pray for my sheep. We try to find ways to kick that lion away. The third time Jesus said to him, Simon, son of John, if you love me, the man was speechless. He was speechless. Something else we find here in Matthew 16:25. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. Proverbs 14:31 says, whoever oppresses the poor shows contempt to their maker, but whoever is kind to the needy honors God. How would we show kindness to them? Feeding alone is not enough. The last verse here that I want to refer to is James 4:17, a verse very well known. If anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is sin for them. Question is, how many times have we sinned? When the people are being oppressed and we have not spoken for them. We have not been the voice of the people around us. We have many other examples. We find Moses, who was mentioned here last night, who spoke against oppression. We have Daniel, our theme song, who stood up. That was serious disobedience in the face of death, but he did not budge down. The prophet's messages to the kings, many of them we know, they had to face, to go knowing that they could die on that day. In fact, some of them were killed. Mordecai is another example, who stood up and they spoke because they could not just watch people suffer. The problem with feeding without care is that, number one, it becomes all about reporting numbers of people who are hungry and suffering. Number two, it is a temporary solution to an ongoing suffering. And those who come from Congo and probably the West Uganda, they know what I'm talking about. Wars have been going on forever, and people have kept feeding. What if we took action to stop the causes of this misery? It's not a holistic approach to problem solving. It doesn't go to the root cause of the problem. Tolerance for continued human suffering is the result. And sometimes we get self-gratification. We say, we are helping a lot of people, by distributing aid and clothes and all these things to cover them. So we're doing a lot. This church is a church that's alive because we're doing a lot. Is that where we should be? What is being apolitical? This is a simple definition that Matsoro and I came up with. Doing good for the victims, speaking for them, and fighting non-violently the causes of oppression and suffering. Think about it. We propose a model, as we end this presentation, a model that has 3 stages for our African leaders when it comes to being apolitical. The first stage, we have been dealing with the first and second stage, but we rarely go to the third stage. So let's look at it. Stage number 1 is basic involvement, where we acknowledge the suffering in the red zones, we analyze the primary needs, and plan for aid for basic needs. Some people just stop there, and they'll say, okay, now can we contribute and then send the money there? I don't have money. My daughter is getting married, my brother, and so on. We just stop at the first level. Second level, we move into action, but the mid-involvement has only to do with the basic needs. We mobilize resources with and outside the church organizations. We provide primary aid to the suffering, the food, the shelter, counseling, primary health care. These are things that you find in the literature that people are doing. But here we are this afternoon to propose something a little higher than that. We want you to take a step further. That's stage 3. That is sustainable involvement. What does it take? We need to speak up for human rights and social justice. We need to develop sustainable plans for the affected people. How many times are we going to feed them? We need to actually develop plans so that they can feed themselves until the problem is solved. While we are speaking against the oppression, putting pressure there, we should be able to have them take care of themselves and then mobilize resources for the plans. We need to implement and monitor and evaluate the plans, not just get in and get out. In conclusion, we want to end with some words of our elders who have fought oppression in the past. And I think we will agree with what they have said. Let's start with the first one that is very well known. All these faces are very well known. This is Martin Luther King, who says the ultimate tragedy is not the oppression and cruelty by the bad people, but the silence over that by the good people. He said that is keeping quiet when we know it's the right thing to do is worse than the people who are doing the bad things to our people, to our brothers and sisters. Desmond Tutu, very well known in South Africa. If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. And this is a theologian, a wonderful, mighty theologian in Africa. And we have the famous Nelson Mandela, who said, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. So we need to overcome our fear. The brave man is not he who does not fear the afraid, but he who conquers that fear." As leaders, we need to start conquering that fear that we may lose our life. A good head and a good heart. We may have a good heart, but we hide behind being apolitical and say, we cannot do this. The last one here, the only way we'll get freedom for ourselves is to identify ourselves with every oppressed people in the world. We need to identify with them. Will it be enough if somebody had come and slaughtered your wife, your child? It would be enough for them to say, I'm going to pray for you, God bless you. While we have a number of people walking on the street asking for more justice, and you stay at home. I don't know what you'll be feeling. I want to end with this one. We must have a desire to see justice established and injustice removed from the land. Not only in the matters related to war, but in all areas of life. If injustices are present in the land, we must continue to oppose them, not closing our eyes to them for the sake of the war cause. Thank you so much.